there may be some who would argue that that his dream has been fulfilled. There was a memorial erected in his honor in the tidal basin in Washington, D.C., which is unprecedented. President Obama has been elected and has been reelected to a second term, which would suggest to some degree, for some, that we are in what they would call a post-racial era, and would argue because of that and the many inroads we have made as African Americans that we are somehow living into the dream that Dr. King so eloquently postulated. But there are others, and I would tend to fit in that school of thought, who would say that that his dream has yet to be fulfilled. And it might be good maybe even to talk about for a few moments what that dream is, because you know, when we have conversations about Dr. King's dream, most of us have in mind that iconic speech that he gave in 1963, August 1963. In fact, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of that speech this year, which was a 17-minute address that, you know, just virtually went viral. And unfortunately, many fast forward the speech to the close, where he begins to depict, you know, kind of his vision, or cast vision for a day when, you know, little white girls be holding hands with, you know, black boys, and kind of this wonderful image of the beloved community. And that becomes for them the dream. And so when we look at the election of our president, when we look at the memorial that was erected in Washington, D.C., when we look at the demographics of the public square, there are some who would probably argue that, you know, we're getting along fairly well together. But King's dream was much more profound than that. It wasn't just the idea of, you know, blacks and whites associating or sharing the same physical space. We did that prior to 1863. And you know, blacks shared the same space as whites. The problem was they shared that space as second, maybe third-class citizens. And Dr. King's dream was not simply having the privilege to share the space, but to share the space as equals. Central to that idea was the kind of theological thought that all of us are created in the image of God. And that as a result of that, all of us have something inside, intrinsic, that is inherent to who we are, that gives us dignity. Writers in the 60s and 70s would talk about this whole idea of somebodyness. And Dr. King and a host of others would say that we are somebody not because we are birthed into a certain class, or you know, because we have certain parents who are well-to-do or well-connected or networked, but we were somebody because we're birthed into the world in the image of God, and that gives us dignity. And when we think about his dream understands that we are individuals of dignity. And as a result of that, we have the right to certain aspects of justice in this society. King was very much aligned with the Constitution that said, that understood that all men and women are created equal. And therefore they are endowed by their Creator, not the Constitution, not the White House, not the President, but they are endowed by God Himself with certain inalienable rights, and, you know, the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. And so for King, theologically, his dream understood that we are all individuals of dignity, that we, by virtue of our birth and our relationship with God, should be granted certain rights, life, liberty, and justice, And to push that a bit further, his dream understood that we have the capacity to do so. Unlike some of the reformers earlier on who would argue that, if we're not saved, we don't have the capacity to do the right thing. And King would argue, no, we do have the capacity to do the right thing, to live into the dream, because we have all been created in the image of God. And so we can't, cop out and scapegoat and declare that, we don't have the ability to do the right thing by our brothers and sisters, because, King understood that we did, and his dream understood that we did. And then ultimately, that led to this idea of beloved community, or his dream, the image that he shared at the end of that speech. But he also understood that the dream can never become a reality until some of the justice issues are resolved. Because his dream understood that, within the context of his dream, he understood that there had to be mutual regard. And I can't say that we are there yet. Economically and socially, there's still, quite a gap that needs to be addressed and corrected. And I think King, in 2013, would, his footnote would be that we have yet to realize a dream because of these other issues, even though we're sharing the same space. That there are these other issues that need to be resolved.